Time for Freddie's Power Rankings. The great man Brad Fittler's with me. Hello, Brad.
Not feeling as powerful.
No, Tracy's studio. Back next week with a bang, I
Righto.
promise. Let's get into your team
Miss you,
power
Tracy,
rankings. I'm surprised to see this team there, but I probably shouldn't be after a surprise win on Saturday night. The Manly Seagulls have jumped to number 10. First time they've been in your top 10 on the power rankings.
Yeah, they something clicked. They made a few errors early, and then between the Trbojevic boys, they just got it all together. Scored some nice tries. I know with about 30 points. There's Turbo linking up with his brother back through the middle. But on the other hand, the Broncos were very disappointing. And the good thing about the Seagulls, they haven't lost their identity. All their tries all came from pushing up through the middle and then going to the outside. And that's where they're best, is, you know, when Jake and Api Coruscant and these blokes sort of just piling through the middle of the field, and then the open outside just opens right up for them. So awesome performance, well done.
And they got a Melbourne team without Cameron Smith this Saturday night in Melbourne. Let's continue up your power rankings. A few teams that were already there, but the Knights, they've slipped from 6th to 9th. The Tigers have jumped from 10th to 8th after that win at home against the Cowboys. The Warriors, still there, but they're now in 7th, slipping from 3rd. And the Roosters,
Big slip.
a big move from 9th to 6th. They are looking very dangerous and certainly were against the Warriors in New Zealand, Brad.
They sure were. They've been practicing new attack. That's been the line over the last couple of weeks. Didn't quite stick against the Dragons, but it was fantastic, I thought. Look at that, just nice quick hands in those conditions. Across the board, they were quite spectacular. Luke Keary, once again, he's been the real danger, and his combination with Tedesco has been fantastic. Tedesco made a few errors, but all in all, their attack looked dangerous, and that's how we like to see the Roosters. So they're going to be a tough ask this week when they play against Brisbane.
There we go. We're live and free Friday night on 9. The Panthers, they are the next team still in your top 10, and they've jumped from 7th to 5th after another victory on the road in Newcastle. The Sharks are there too. One spot up to 4th. Great win away in Canberra on the weekend. The Dragons, though, they've slipped from 1 to 3, Brad, and that sees a new team in number 2. They've moved from 4th. The South Sydney Rabbitohs just keep on winning, and most notably against the Dragons on Sunday afternoon.
Well, when you beat the benchmark, you suddenly become the benchmark. I thought their defence online was outstanding. Angus Crichton, to me, just reminds me of like a wildebeest running across the savannah, hunting down some prey or some fresh grass to eat. But across the board, South Sydney, they were strong, powerful. The Burgess boys through the middle, and then just had enough speed and talent on the edge to get some tries. But it's the first time the Dragons have had some injuries. They sort of got a bit buckled. I think DeBellum went down.
Yep.
Kurt Mann got hurt. Ben Hunt had an injury, but you've got to give South Sydney a lot of credit there. They were coming off their line. They were very aggressive. So they've moved into 2. They're the new benchmark. Benchmark.
All right. South's the team to beat, but there is one team sitting above them in your power rankings. It's the Melbourne Storm. They've gone from 2 to 1, Brad, after a win on Saturday night in those Suncorp Stadium double-headers. Their latest victim, the Gold Coast Titans.
Yeah, the Gold Coast were brave. I've got to hand it to the Gold Coast. I think they ended up the game with no one sitting on the sideline. But they're just so good. You know, when the pressure comes on, they stay calm. Cameron Munster's just been outstanding this year. You know, on the back of a Cameron Smith with his composure.
The Fox.
And then when you give the Fox the ball in a bit of space, you know what's going to happen. But across the board, they are just a really good footy team, man. It'll be interesting how they go without Cameron Smith. Brandon Smith, on the other hand, it's been fantastic coming off the bench.
Okay.
He's been a real shining light this year. Big improver.
All right, let's go from your teams to your players. Now, sitting in number 10 this week, throw those notes away, Brad. A man that's been in your 10, I think pretty much the entire season, but has dropped from 1st to 10th. Jack DeBellin, and those two players ahead of him. We want to focus on a few newbies in your lineup. Tyrone Peachey, let's start with him. He's gone from out of the 10 altogether to 9th on the back of a great display against the Knights.
He's a bit of the elephant in the room at the moment, Tyrone. They're always talking about Nathan Cleary and Maloney and what's going to happen there, but I think if anyone stood out over the last couple of weeks, it's been Tyrone Peachey. He had a huge say in what happened against the Knights. Just a brilliant little player. I just hate to see him go to the centres and for them to lose that spark that he provided. So, you know, somehow he needs to get more involved than I see a lot of centres do.
Has he got what it takes, that utility factor maybe, to play State of Origin football, Brad?
He's played a lot of hooker in the past. I don't know how good his hooker was at the time, but he's definitely can cover halves, centres, back row. Great little player.
Okay, we're keeping an eye on him. So too, Angus Crichton. He's the latest player to jump into your top 10 on the back of that Bunnies win over the Dragons. You've likened him to a wildebeest.
Running across the Savannah Plains. I think it's Savannah. I'm not sure what plains they are. It just slipped my mind. I've been there, actually, over in Zimbabwe and Tanzania, and I've seen the migration, but he looks like he's part of the migration. I'd hate to have to race him for food. Yeah, I think he'd win. I'd wilt away.
Pasture's looking very green for Angus
I
Crichton.
can't have to become a vegan like I have. I just have to chew grass and there'd be no meat for Brad.
Is he in the mix? Is he another contender we're seeing leading up to?
Yeah, if not this year, some stage.
Yep.
He's a very good player and he's just still very raw. You know, I don't think anyone's really sort of sat down and spotlight his defence and how he's going there and how he works with other players. But you can see with the ball, he's dynamic. So he'll be there soon enough.
Great to watch in full flight. The wildebeest that is Angus Crichton. The player above him in 7th spot, Blake Ferguson, in form this year. The winger from the Roosters sitting in 7th. The man ahead of him, though, Tyson Frizzell in 6th spot of the Dragons, getting himself in that top 10 spot. And, well, what a try this was on the weekend against South Sydney and a losing Dragons team.
Yeah, well, here comes Dane Gagai. He skirted Adam Reynolds quite early. There's a back row. He's just gone 90 metres. He did it easy. What an athlete. And scored a try late in the game as well to give the Dragons a glimmer of hope. But he, in a losing team, he's been absolutely outstanding this year. And let's just hope he's fit and fresh.
Oh, yeah. Not far off. Bring it on. Go Tyson. Killing it at the moment. Let's continue up your power rankings in the 5th spot. Up from 9th, Cameron Munster of the Melbourne Storm and soon to be Queensland, you'd expect. Luke Brooks has got himself into your top 10. He's sitting in 4th on the back of the Tigers win over the Cowboys.
Eagles watch his little legs run up the grand,
sausage dog body.
up the Western Grandstand of Leichhardt.
The old legs are James Maloney in 3rd at the moment. Ahead of him, staying in 2nd spot, Kalen Ponga. Again, good in a losing team. But number 1, up from number 3, one Andrew Fafita, loving life with the captaincy as the Sharks down the Raiders on Sunday in Canberra, Brad.
Yeah, it was actually quite a beautiful day down there. And they went down there without a lot of players. He made over 50 tackles, ran for about 180 metres. It was absolutely awesome. Had the big C next to his name and just did it for the whole game. They got behind at half time. They were down by 8. There was a huge wind into them in the second half. It was quite funny, that story, actually. There was Elliot Whitehead in the World Cup, knocked the ball out of Fafita's hands, which could have taken them to the final. And it was the exact same player stopped his progress in scoring a try against Canberra.
He's clocking up those Dally M medal points at the moment too, leading the charge. One Andrew.
Yeah, he's going great, going really good.
So are you, Bradley. Thank you for that. They are Freddie's Power Rankings after 10 rounds of the National Rugby League.